Hello?
Okay, there you go. Hello, hello, hello.
Uh-huh.
How you doing, Uli?
Yeah. Yeah, well, have we met before?
No, we have not. We have not.
And where are you?
I'm in the Philadelphia area.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Now, this tour, is this, did you put this together? Like, did you pick Jennifer and Andy to come out and do this tour with you?
Yeah, it was my idea. You see, we had the idea to do a special guitar thing for several years. It just never really happened. I was on a similar setup last year, which was called Extreme Guitar.
Okay.
You know, but that was not my doing. I was just basically, in it. But I had the idea for that kind of tour even quite a few years back, you know, and now it finally happened. Everything seemed to come together nicely. And yeah, when I was thinking about who to invite, these two I thought would be very special because they really have something to offer, you know, and I wanted to go for quality, not just quantity,
right.
you know.
Now, how is the tour going to...
They stand for quality, you know, both Jennifer and Andy.
Now, how is the tour going to work? Will you guys each do a separate set, or will you all be playing together the whole show, or...?
We will do both. In the beginning, yes, we will each do a separate set because we're musically quite different, although we're sharing the same band. So after these sets are done, we're going to do a set together, which will not be that long because it's at the end of a long show. But I'm really looking forward to that because we're going to do a special selection of songs and not just stuff like Johnny Be Good or Going Down or what the usual contenders, you know.
Now, not only for your own set of songs, I mean, you have a long career of and a big body of music to choose from, but how about choosing music for your own set as well as that final set?
Well, I was thinking about that, and I came up with what I think is a really interesting selection, you know. In the past, I sometimes really went on stage almost without a set list and just making it up as I went along. But that's when I do my own shows, you know, and I have all the time in the world. And in America, people sometimes like, you know, long sets with, you know, with lots of variety. But this time I won't have that much time, and so I prepared something like a set list. I'm sure it's going to change as the tour progresses, and we're going to have a lot more songs at our disposal than we'll actually be able to play, because sometimes I like to rotate a bit, you know, otherwise it gets too boring for us, and that's more challenging. So basically, because it's called Ultimate Guitar Experience, it'll be the guitar that'll do a lot of the talking. You know, when I did my Scorpions Revisited tour, the guitar was quite prominent too, but it was basically a tour devoted to nothing but these early Scorpions pieces. Now, this is going to be different. I'm going to play a more virtuoso guitar, so I'll have some of my Transcendental Sky Guitar stuff there, some very rare Electric Sun, rare meaning that I haven't played some of these that I picked for nigh on 35 years or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And that's and I know people have asked me again and again in the States and pretty much anywhere else, why don't you do more Electric Sun? And now we're going to do that. We'll do a nice selection on that tour, as well as some of the Scorpions, early Scorpions classics, you know.
Oh, cool.
And then when for our final bit, where the set that we'll do together, I think I've got some pretty interesting surprises, which I'm not gonna spill the beans about just yet. But it's not just going to be a jam at the end, you know. I really want us to interact, and with these type of caliber of musicians as Jennifer Batten and Andy Timmons, that's absolutely doable. You know, so
nice.
Sometimes when you have these guitar scenarios with a lot of guitar gunslingers on stage, it sometimes ends up, you know, a bit in a like a slanging match with.
Right.
People out noodling one another with, you know, who can play the fastest arpeggio or whatever. I mean, that's not going to happen with us. We'll produce real music.
Have you done any work with either Jennifer or Andy before? Or?
With Jennifer, I've done some touring, and it's always been a great experience. I really like touring with her. She's such a pleasant person to be with, and very original also. I like that. She does things her own way. And Andy, I've only met so far a couple of times, but I've heard his playing, and I know that he's an amazing guitar player, and I think stylistically it'll blend very well.
Nice. Now, you said that everybody's using the same band. Is this your band?
Yeah, it's basically my band, or part of my band, because I can't say that I have one band. When I'm in America, sometimes I have American musicians as well, but the majority of my band is German. And sometimes I also have English musicians. This time it'll be several coming from Germany, and also a couple from America.
Wow.
With John West on vocals. He's from the East Coast. Great singer.
Now, you also said there's some music you haven't done in 35 years. Like, now, when it comes to that...
Yeah, the Electric Sun stuff, yes.
Do you need to sit down and relearn all that stuff again, or?
Some of the Electric Sun stuff is quite intricate, and I certainly will brush up on that. You know, with the Scorpion stuff, it was more easy. It's kind of like you can do it right away if you know what you're doing. You know, the Electric Sun stuff is certainly much more difficult to play, and also is something that I don't want to play without rehearsal,
right.
Or at least short rehearsal, you know. And yeah, that's what we'll do.
Now, like you've mentioned you'll be playing some Scorpions music, you know, your Electric Sun music, some of your music. Is it kind of hard for you to believe, though, like looking back over this 40-plus year career, that both yourself and the Scorpions are still relevant in today's world of music?
It's been a long journey, and I don't think so much in terms of relevance. I mean, because I just do what I think I do best, you know, and what I like to do. You know, so I still like to play live, and I mean, certainly when we first started, like in the 70s, the music was more relevant because it was more mainstream. You know, it reached more people, and it was a different time. Back then, rock was still very, very young and also largely unexplored. Now it's like 40 years later, it's a totally different story. You know, it's become, I wouldn't say a niche. I mean, you know, some bands can still pack the big halls, but for most bands, it's a much smaller market now. So it's relevant and maybe in a different sense, you know.
Right.
But in the big scheme of things, it's probably not so relevant, you know. One needs to understand these things. And I mean, music on the whole doesn't seem relevant anymore in the big scheme of things when I'm looking at worldwide affairs. There was a time in the 60s when that was different, when you had people like Dylan and Joan Baez actually even, I wouldn't say influence politics, but certainly had a very powerful impact on society, you know, or the Beatles, Hendrix, you know. But those days are gone, you know. Now music, not necessarily rock music, but music, a lot of the mainstream music is really just entertainment right. Music. And I personally basically never saw our stuff as entertainment. I hoped it was entertaining in the sense that it is maybe kind of touching people's emotions, you know. But entertainment is something different, you know. And
right.
I never. I don't really relate to entertainment music.
You relate to just the music.
Well, I relate to. I see. Maybe serious is the wrong word, but I see something. Yeah, I see something very serious in music. You know, music for me is like extra special. It's almost holy. You know, it's like I can't explain it. You know, it's certainly it's there all the time. You know, even when you don't play, it's I see the music in pretty much everything. You know, or right. I can hear it in everything. But it's I know I have a lot of respect for music, and I've always had that respect. You know, I've never lost it.
Right. Now, you also did last year. You had put out the Scorpions Revisited album. Now, when you went back and redid them old songs, did you do anything like that the way you pictured it? You wanted it to sound originally, or did you just try to redo them as close to the originals as possible?
I kept that which I thought was quote unquote perfect. Not that anything's ever really perfect, but I kept that which I thought should be kept and had the full marks. Whereas there were some bits even back then that I wasn't happy with. You know, I mean, some songs that ended up on albums to me weren't even properly finished. And I think that now I found answers to these questions. So on the whole, I think yes, they're a little bit more rounded now, and some new aspects have been brought into it and put them onto a new plateau. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying they are sufficiently different to give them a purpose, you know, a right to be here. But at the same time, I hope that they are also sufficiently in keeping with the original spirit of the music, which I think is always very important. You know, again, it's a respect. So I respect these old songs because I see that they have power and that that there's something in them which is inexplicable. There is some kind of magic, some more than others, and I've picked the ones that I felt could have this. You used the word relevance earlier on. Could have this kind of relevance today, you know.
Right.
And I see it every day when we're playing them live. I see how it really gets to the audience in pretty much every country. And yeah, that's not accidental, you know.
No.
And in many respects, because I remember the early days with the Scorpions very, very well. And yes, we had rapturous audiences, and sometimes or quite often, but not always on such a scale and reliable level, you know. So something we must be doing right now.
Now, you just said you remember a lot of the old days with the Scorpions, the early days, and that was actually one of my questions, and doesn't really pertain completely to the Scorpions, but going through your website, you have a section that is a bio section of pictures. And I was wondering...
there was an idea that just came, you know, because it started with a few pictures, and then I realized one could almost make a whole story just, you know, with these pictures, with these photos, you know.
Sure,
and people
sure.
seem to like it.
Yeah, and that's like, I guess, like, you know what I mean, like looking at a picture, it's like that portion of time frozen, and I was wondering, like, a lot of them pictures going back, do you remember, like, as those pictures were taken?
There are, I have to say, I used to have a fantastic memory. Now it's pretty, yeah, it's a shadow of its former self. Don't ask me why. It must be age creeping in. So there are actually some photos, particularly like very early Scorpions photos, that I literally don't remember where they were taken, and it's strange. I mean, I saw the reissue of Taken by Force recently. The record companies sent it to me. They re-released several of these early albums in Europe with nice new artwork and lots of photos. And there was a whole bunch of photos, live photos, where I absolutely couldn't remember where they were taken. And when I was younger, that wouldn't have happened to me because I pretty much remembered everything, down to every note almost that I played in the Scorpions. It was pretty photographic. Somehow I kind of lost that ability.
Now, one of the pictures really stood out to me, and it was a picture of your old band, Dawn Road. I guess it was in a rehearsal.
Oh, I remember those. I remember those photos.
Which I guess you guys...
Which one do you mean?
You were in a rehearsal in 1972?
Oh, yeah.
And then you guys went back 40 years later and you used the same place, I guess, for the Scorpions Revisited album?
Absolutely. That was exactly the same place. And it even looked the same, down to the seats. It hadn't been refurbished.
Oh, wow.
And that was also the hall that we used with the Scorpions. That was basically our rehearsal place for quite some time. We had two, you know. It was a big school, and our keyboard player, back then we had a keyboard player, his dad was the caretaker, you know, so we had kind of carte blanche. We had a rehearsal room like underground in the cellars, but then very often we'd be in this really nice auditorium, and with a great sound and a great vibe. And when and some of the songs were actually like written there or played there for the first time. So when it came to recording this Scorpions Revisited album, and that immediately I thought of this place, and luckily it was available. We went there on a school holiday because it's still a school.
Oh wow, that's great!
Yeah,
I love stories like that.
And it was almost like a destiny thing, because when I called our old keyboard player, his name is Achim Kirschning. He's a good friend of mine, but I don't speak to him very often, unfortunately. But he ended up being the headmaster of that school because he was a math teacher at the college,
Oh, wow.
and then he became the headmaster for many years. And when I called, it was basically his last term, and a couple of months later, he retired. So I was just in time to make that happen.
Perfect timing for you to call.
Yes.
So, going back to the tour, though, something that you were doing too with this upcoming tour is you're doing like a private acoustic concert for some people.
Yeah, this is. It's not just an acoustic concert. It's basically giving people the opportunity to get a sneak preview and be part of our rehearsal of some of the material for the next album. And this has several intentions behind it. I've never done this before. But I always thought it's interesting to see people rehearse, sometimes more interesting actually than the actual performance. I know this from the classical world, where sometimes you can sit in on orchestra rehearsals, and but also the songs take on a totally different life once you play them in front of an audience. So it'll give me the chance to try some stuff at the sound check, but do it almost in concert conditions,
Right.
And so we came up with the idea of VIP passes that basically give access to that sound check, and part of the sound check is also about half an hour or half hour plus of acoustic concert just for those present. Because recently we've been doing several acoustic concerts, and I really love that. I've got this amazing double neck sky guitar, which has a flamenco guitar as one of the necks, and so we're doing a mixed bag. We're doing some ambitious stuff from my last album, and some flamenco stuff. Flamenco meets rock, and it's something that I really love doing, and we don't get to do that often enough. So on this tour, we'll do that. It'll be a double whammy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that
people can get these VIP passes at our website. And so far they're quite popular. I don't expect lots of people there each day around, but it doesn't matter because we're doing the sound checks anyways. And
right.
At the same time, I'm kind of forced to rehearse the songs, which normally I don't really like doing so much. So that's good. It'll whip us into shape. And hopefully make the songs better than when we're going to record. In fact, I know it'll be better because it really helps.
You just mentioned flamenco guitar, and I growing up, when I was trying to learn to play guitar and all, my mom would always say to me, "You want to learn to play guitar? You want to hear a good guitar player? Listen to Charo."
Charo? No, excuse me, who is that?
You don't know? Okay, she was a flamenco guitarist, but she was like an entertainer in the 70s, and her big thing was she would always go coochie coochie.
I have not heard her name. I'm so sorry. I have not heard her name. Maybe she was famous in America, but I grew up in Europe, and there were some American guitar players that were famous. I remember Jose Feliciano.
Yes.
But I have not heard her name in the 70s.
Wow.
Anyways.
Now, how about...
but your mom was right. And that's what I would tell my students, playing guitar, electric guitar is all good and well, but if I didn't have the scope of the classical and the flamenco, I wouldn't, be nearly the kind of player that I am. it really helps with to broaden your scope. Also do some finger picking. It's good for the rhythm playing. It's good for just about everything. I can't even recommend it highly enough.
Wow. Now, one other guitarist I have to ask you about, which is my all-time favorite guitarist, and that's Randy Rhoads.
Randy Rhoads, I have to admit I know very little about him. People have said that we sometimes in early days sounded a little alike, but I wasn't so much like an Aussie kind of guy, so I know very little about him. I only heard some fragments, and I do know that his brother invited me to a Randy Rhoads concert to play, but I couldn't because I had a different gig that night.
Okay.
So again, I can't really comment on that. Sorry to disappoint you a second time.
That's okay. That's okay.
Do you have a third? But he must have been a great player because a lot of people think so, and these things are usually there's a reason for that.
Right. So, all right. So, where can everybody go for information about the tour?
Well, best place is really my website, ulijonroth.com, and there's a write-up there, and there are all the latest tour dates. I think we've got pretty much all of them now. It'll be around 40 dates. I think there are 3 dates pending. Other than that, most of it is in place now, and tickets are available for most shows, I think. Maybe not quite all of them yet. It's a very long tour. It's the longest American tour that I've done, going from the U.S. Right into Canada twice, starting in Florida. In fact, no, we're first doing the Monsters of Rock cruise, taking us from Miami to the Bahamas. I'm really looking forward to that one because I love these cruises. And then from Florida, we're going all across the states. We're going east, we're going west, we're going north, south, Texas, Oregon, Seattle, you name it. And it'll be very, very, very tough because we're almost playing every day, which is a hard thing to do mentally. But, I'm priming myself, so I think I hope I'll come through it with flying colors. But it's not an easy task because touring like that can be hard when you're constantly we basically you can't really relax a lot, no off days.
Well, you have to find that little bit of time just to relax and recoup.
Well, I do. I mean, I don't get stressed out, but it's still mentally to do a show every night. You have to kind of psych yourself up, and maybe we're not always in the mood to be on stage. Sometimes
sure
I'd rather not be on stage, but then that's where the discipline comes in. People come to see the show, and I'm always really trying to do the very best I can every night with my with my whatever my limited resources are at the time.
I want you to
get really tired, because sleep is a problem because I'm basically a morning person, getting up. Like right now I'm in England, and I've had some time in the studio here editing a video for Japan, but I get up like very early normally, today maybe 6:30, something like that. Now on tour, that's absolutely not possible. I have to basically have the peak of the day just before midnight, or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And then you do meet and greets. Sometimes you're not in bed till 3 or 4, and then the next day, my problem is that I always wake up early no matter what I do, because that's my body clock. So the first week of the tour, the first 10 days, I'm usually really jet lagged just from being on tour because I just don't get into the right sleeping rhythm, and but then somehow I get with it,
So when I come see you on the last night of the tour, you're really going to be exhausted then.
Oh yeah, no, I might be exhausted or might be I don't know. Sometimes the shows at the end are some of the best. Difficult to tell. Each tour is like a journey, and things happen. You've got peak periods and troughs, and it's difficult to tell.
Absolutely. Well,
I guess
like
from the outside, pretty much isn't so much of a difference, whether you're at that show or that show, but I can tell differences. Yeah.
I'd like you to pick out 2 songs that you'd like me to play for everybody.
Really just from the latest album, Well, how much time do you have? Problem with my with these Scorpions Live renditions is that some of the best ones are really long,
That's fine. You pick them out.
How much time you have? We'll Burn the Sky came out really nice, I think, and Sails of Sharon, first one, also.
Okay. Very good.
So, and both of these will be playing, and they're slightly different each day. Particularly Sails of Sharon. The one on the album was a first take, and the entire middle section is completely improvised. So every night it is different. Yes.
Very nice. Uli, this has been an absolute honor and a pleasure talking to you. I want to thank you. I know you have a bunch of other interviews to do, and I want to keep you up.
Oh, you're very
longer.
welcome. None today. None today. No? Other than that, I'm going back to the video studio now.
Okay. Can I get you to cut an ID for me real quick before I let you go? This is Uli Jon Roth, and you're listening to Totally Driven. It's Totally Driven Radio.
Driven Radio?
Totally Driven Radio.
Totally Driven. Okay, all right. Ready?
Go for it.
Hi, this is Uli Jon Roth. You live one more time. Hi, this is Uli Jon Roth. You're listening to Totally Driven Radio. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. Uli, thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing... Yes, I did. I look forward to seeing you in April.